I would like to start my speech in 3, 2, 1. In this point, the opposition side state that impoverished punishment will create a new problem. What's the problem? The problem is the ex-corruptor will get poor due to they unable to get money source. And they have to pay their daily needs. And with this problem, the opposition side just guess that these corruptors will get rehabilitation to not to repeat the corruption thing again. But let me give you an example. We can see from a drug rehabilitation, it is not 100% effective to prevent using drugs again. And why I mention about the drugs rehabilitation, because as we know, corruption is an addictive thing. When someone did a corruption, they will have a desire to get more and more money, and it's an addictive thing too. And as we know, based from the drugs rehabilitation, it is not 100% effective to prevent them to stop using the drugs. And the phenomenon is we call it as a relapse. In this relapse, people tend to repeat the same mistakes, or in this case, in corruption. And we can conclude that just because they got rehab doesn't mean 100% effective. So I do believe that just rehabilitation, it is not 100% effective to prevent them to not to do corruption again. And then why? Why we should impoverish them? First, corruption makes a country poor and increase the poverty in our states. And I do believe it is more benefit if the corruptor is impoverished or get poor rather than the states being poor. As we know, if the states is poor, there will have a bad impacts. Like the first, it will slow the economic growth, and the second is the more hunger case if the country has a higher poverty rates. And if we just rehab them, they will repeat again. And it will, of course, if they repeat again, it will increase our poverty rates in our states, in our country. And how will the government, as the Prime Minister said, we should impoverish them? We can impoverish them. As the Prime Minister said that we can impoverish them with they have to pay 150% their belongings about how much the money they takes. And as the government whip, we can confiscate their belongings, their treasure. We can confiscate them and put them in the jail. And with this regulation, with this bold move, we can stop or prevent them to do corruption things again. And as the opponent said that if the corruption will get impoverished, how would they pay their daily needs? How would they pay daily bills? It's their consequences. If they want to their daily needs, they have to work. They have to find an occupation, and they have to work from the bottom or from the zero. It is their consequences because they dare to do corruption things, while as we know that corruption is a bad impact for the states, and the corruption things it's bad. It's bad because, as I said before, it will slow the economic growth and it will increase the more hunger case from this corruption. And as I said before, confiscate their belongings will make the people, or maybe the ex-corruptors, stop doing it again rather than rehabilitation. With this bold move, or with this bold regulation about impoverished them, they wouldn't dare to do it again for the ex-corruptor. And from the people, if they want or have a thought about to do some corruption, they wouldn't dare to do it because it's a bold decision. That because we must make a country clean from all about corruption things to do. So with this regulation, we support our Prime Minister that in this point, impoverish the ex-corruptor is necessary, and we can adding them with confiscate their all belongings in order to stop or prevent them to do it the corruption things again. That's all from me. Thank you.
Okay, now ladies and gentlemen, as the government whip, first thing first, I'm going to summarize today's debate. I'm going to state several points that are already made both from the opening government and also from the opening opposition. And also I would like to give my statement to why we as the government support this motion. Now ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I would like to point out what the Prime Minister has stated. When you do something, you have to face the consequences. In this case, when corruptors commit crime, then they will have to face the punishment that they're getting. What I'm trying to say is, ladies and gentlemen, corruptors in many countries, they are not facing equal punishment for the crime that they have committed. That's why we as the government believe that by impoverishing them, those corruptors, not only that they will give back the amount of money that they have stole from the country, but also to prevent any more acts of corruption in the future to happen again. That is why we support this motion too, by making this impoverishment a stronger punishment for corruptors. Also, like the Prime Minister stated, that the goal of the punishment itself is not to make them live in poverty, but rather than it will make them regret the punishment. It will make them live their life as the regular persons. Now, of course, I heard a point from the leader of opposition. The leader of opposition stated that by impoverishing these corruptors, it will only burden the country, because then the country will have to take care of the corruptors that are being impoverished. It will affect their family because they could no longer afford their daily needs. Now, I don't think this is the case, ladies and gentlemen, because as the Prime Minister have stated that the impoverishment is only at certain percent, and they are still left with some amount of money, so they could still afford basic necessities. They could still look for a job, and they could start from zero to afford their daily necessities. We are making them living their life like a regular person, not making them being tortured, living in poverty. So that's why I think that the statement from the leader of opposition is invalid. Then the leader of opposition also stated that there is a line of punishment for a human being. Now, they also stated that we should think about the life of the family of the corruptors. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how about we think about the life of the citizen or the family who actually need the money for the money that the corruptor have stole? Surely, we believe that by impoverishing them, it will make them reflect on the act that they did, and they can feel what living like a normal, regular person without a huge money in their hands. Now, the next statement that I wanted to point out is how the opposition side stated that rehabilitation is a better solution. It will be the best solution because by fixing the root of the corruptors, that is their moral, they won't feel the need to corrupt. They won't feel the need to corrupt again. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is a matter of the matter of moral itself is personal. It is something that only the person know, only themselves know. We will never know that. Yes, maybe after rehabilitation, they will likely to regret their act of corruption. But what will happen after that is something we will never know. Could we still make sure that they won't corrupt again after some time of rehabilitation? We don't think so. That's why we think that rehabilitation won't work, because their heads are already filled with the thoughts of money. They are driven by the thoughts of money, and that's why, for example, current corruptors, they are not scared of punishment at all, because and they won't regret the punishment because they still can run away from it. By strengthening the law, by impoverishing them, it will make them regret and reflect on what they did, and they will also reflect on what damage they have caused to the country. So it brings to my final conclusion. My final conclusion is we support to this motion by impoverishing corruptors, because impoverishing the corruptors, we could reduce the amount of acts of corruption in the future. By impoverishing them also, not only it will make those ex-corruptors regret their actions, so it will also prevent more corruptions to happen again in the country. They will also lose their power. They will start to live their life as a regular person that lives their life, work their job starting from zero again. We also think that, like the opposition side stated, that rehabilitation is better. Well, we as the government side don't agree to this statement. We think that rehabilitation is even more non-effective because the thought of the corruption comes from themselves, and the thought to corrupt could come again because their thoughts are already driven by money. If we impoverish them, then they won't be able to feel the need to steal money again. They are no longer in power, so they won't have the thought to steal money again. Ladies and gentlemen, that's from me as the government whip. Thank you so much.